What up, what up, what up, what up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Let's Ask Paul, the podcast where I, Paul Abernathy, attempt to answer all of your pressing questions submitted through our online portal at paulabernathy.com. Now, many people send me questions by email, text, and whatnot. And sadly, many times I have to tell them, you got to go repost this on paulabernathy.com because we have disclaimers and things like that have to be adhered to. Obviously, when you're a corporation like we are, and I'm answering questions for folks, so we have to make sure that we go through the proper channels. So again, don't think I'm being rude if I don't directly answer your questions, except when I'm live somewhere, then it's obviously acceptable to ask questions on that live platform. But if you're going to submit them, please do so through the proper channels, and that would be at paulabernathy.com. That's a free service sponsored by Wix. So it doesn't cost you anything to submit something. So please take advantage of that. Also, I want to let people know, as a sponsor of the show today, obviously Fast Track System sponsoring the show today. That is our platform that teaches the National Electrical Code. But I wanted to let you know we have the grounding and bonding course available for the 2023. It doesn't really matter whether you're in the 2020 or the 2017. It really doesn't matter when it comes to grounding and bonding because it's pretty much the same principles. You're not taking that course to learn the NEC. You're taking that course to learn the basic fundamental principles of grounding and bonding. So you always want to stay with the freshest version of that. And so we chose to go with the 2023 for this new platform delivery. And it's much more cost effective. It's like $249 or something like that. And you get unlimited access. So it really teaches you grounding and bonding. Okay. And you can post comments on each of the units. If there's a question you have, we'll answer the comment. There's a comment availability after each unit. And during the unit, you can ask comments and give comments. So we're very open about it. And again, my area of expertise when it comes to that is of the NEC broadly, but grounding and bonding is my thing. This is what I love the most. Okay, not that I don't care about the other aspects of it. Obviously I do, but grounding and bonding is where I like to spend a lot. I spend a lot of my time in grounding and bonding. So check that out. No, there's no discount coupons, codes. The price is already crazily low for what you get in our platform. Just go check it out over on fasttracksystem.com. fasttracksystem.com, and look for grounding and bonding. Okay. All right. So let's go on and get into some questions that we have that have been submitted. And I want to make sure that I kind of get a couple of these, and then we'll answer other questions as well. And then I have some other stuff that people sent that I want to make sure that I get answers to for you in this episode. All right. The first one that was sent to me, and it was sent through the portal, Ask Paul portal. And it says, I was checking to see what size breaker I need for an AC compressor, 35 maximum overcurrent protective device, 29.1 minimum circuit ampacity. And of course, he gives the RLA at 19 amperes, which is irrelevant since you're going by nameplate information. So you're not doing this using the NEC, right? You're actually going to use the nameplate here. So it says, what size is better if better to run 8.2 for, and by the way, over on TikTok, I don't know why everybody thinks that I would ever have anybody join me for a live. That's not how I do it. Sorry. So I have to decline whoever sent that. All right. So it says, wasn't sure if better to run an 8.2 for 35 amps or is a 30 amp breaker sufficient? Okay. So here's a couple things about that. First of all, you'll be following the nameplate. So maximum overcurrent protection is a maximum. Could you be less than that? Absolutely. Is there a chance that it won't hold on initial inrush and start? Absolutely. So the easiest thing is to follow the manufacturer. Okay, so if they say the maximum is 35 amp maximum overcurrent protection, and the minimum circuit ampacity is 29.1, right? So that's generally what you're going to follow. Okay. So in this case, you're not, if you want to put it on a 30 amp overcurrent device, go for it. That type of thing. Now, what we want to look at in the code, if you have your code book, and those that are following along that are listening in a car or wherever you're at, that's okay. you can just listen to it and we can talk about it. You can go home and replay it and re-listen to this and grab your code book, whatever you want to do. But the first thing I would go look at is to look at the standard overcurrent devices that are in 240.6a. Okay, so this is a table that tells you what the standard size overcurrent protected devices is. Now, I will tell you that you can get overcurrent protected devices that are non-standardized, right? And for example, they might say a 40 and then a 45 and then it says a 50, right? And then it seems to jump to 60. Well, they may make a 45 non-standard size and you could use that. This is just a list of the standard size overcurrent protected devices, okay? In this case, the 35 amp is listed in this table, okay? So the maximum overcurrent, and here it didn't say whether it was fuses or circuit breakers. It didn't specifically denote that it was just fuses, right? So it's not going to matter. So it's a 35 amp overcurrent protected device. Now it says the minimum circuit ampacity is 29.1 amps, right? So what you've got to do is, I notice you say 8.2, so you're probably talking about non-metallic sheath cable, remembering that non-metallic sheath cable cannot run outside of the building, okay? But it can poke through as long as none of the sheathing is considered outside of the building. It pokes through into the back of the disconnect. Can you run 8.2? Well, here's the thing you want to do. Since you're talking about no other conditions of use and you're talking about 8.2, so it makes me think you're talking about, non-metallic sheath cable. Of course, you could be talking about UF as well, but we'll just go with the premise that you mean 8.2 is non-metallic sheath cable. So what you want to do is you want to go to ampacities, right? And you're going to go to 310/16, right? That's the table, that's your ampacities. Of course, it's non-metallic sheath cable. Of course, you can go look at 334.80 and see that it says that you can use 90 for adjustment and corrective purposes, but at the end of the day, you can't exceed the value that would be under the 60-degree column, right? And so we're just going to jump to that 60-degree column. And you have to excuse me because I have so much screen that I have to go and actually move everything so I can see what the frick is going on. All right, so let's see here. So under the 60-degree column, you say you want 8 for 40, right? And then you see that a 10 is good for 30, right? So if the minimum circuit ampacity is 29.1 amps, under the 60-degree, a 10 gauge is good for 30 amps. So a 10 gauge copper would be fine. It's fine for that, okay? Now, this is all already done on the nameplate, all right? Now, you're probably saying, well, wait a minute. Whoa, wait a minute. You have that little asterisk there that says, wait a minute. That asterisk says that you have to protect the conductor at its ampacity. You go to 240.4, and it's going to tell you that a 10 gauge has to be protected at 30. It's true that you might think that, but when you go to 240.4, right, and you go down to 240.4, and you start looking at it, and you'll be going down and going, well, what about the small conductor rules, 240.4D? And you notice how it says, unless specifically permitted in 240.4E or G, the overcurrent protection shall not exceed that required by 240.4D1 through D8. And of course, that's where you see the 10 gauge is protected at 30 amps. But you got to go down and look at G. And if you look at G, you'll notice that in that table, it specifically calls out air conditioning and refrigeration equipment circuit conductors, and it gives you a reference to 440 Part 3, Part 4, and Part 6. Well, that's where it's going to ultimately end up telling you that you just follow the nameplate, to keep it simple. And it's perfectly okay to do that, all right? So just kind of keep that in mind, is that this is an example where the small conductor rules are not going to apply. That's another example of that would be motors, for example, because if you look at this list, motors is on this list, right? And so it's important to, the thing about code that really gets people is that it's everybody wants this to be an extremely easy document, right? Why doesn't it just flow like that? It can't flow like that. You have to, that's just why electricians, to me, it's such an amazing craft, because we have to learn that 240 issues are going to apply to the overcurrent device. We could have enclosure issues apply in 312. You have the 440 conditions apply for air conditioning equipment. And then you can have specific motors that can apply in 430. You've got to learn to navigate all that stuff and be able to put these pieces together. That's why you get the big bucks, folks, right? So hopefully that helped answer your question. But in your case, 35 amps maximum overcurrent, that's a maximum. So that is fine. That's a standard size. And then the minimum circuit ampacity is 29.1. Then a 10 gauge is good for 30 amps under the 6-degree column. You're perfectly fine for that. There's no need for you to drop down to a 30. Okay? Can you? Yes. Because remember, that 35 max is a max. You can go less, but there's a chance that it will not handle that inrush and sudden starting and all that kind of stuff. Unless maybe you have something like soft starts or something. But other than that, just follow the nameplate. Okay? Pretty straightforward. All right. So that was that question. Let's see if we can answer another one. All right. Okay, so let me look and see what we've got here. We have another question that was submitted through the portal, and it says, are you allowed to install a light switch in a bathroom next to a tub or shower? Okay, so one of the things that we want to look on this is, okay, now we know that there is rules, and there have always been rules about receptacles and proximities and things like that. So this one's talking about just the switch. And it wants to know about installing it next to a bathtub or shower. Now, you didn't give code reference, right? You didn't give it code cycle. And I encourage people to please always give me whatever cycle of the NEC that you're working on. Because for me, it allows me to be able to be as detailed as possible based on the code cycle that you're working on. Okay. So again, that to me, it's important. All right, so what we want to look at is 404, which is for switches, in case you're a student out there and you're like studying for the code and you're like 404. You want to get used to all those code references, right? So that when you're sitting on an exam, or it's really nice when you're out in the field, right? You can just quote these things off, right? It makes it so much easier. It makes life easier. And it's impressive when you can just quote off code, right? So 404 is for switches. And what I want to look is 404.4, damp and wet locations. It says you have an item C. It says switches in tub or shower spaces. It says switches shall not be installed within tub or shower spaces unless installed as part of the listed tub or shower assembly. Okay? So this is talking about switches that are actually inside the tub or shower space. Okay? Not talking about proximity to it, that type of thing. So it is more specifically about within that space. And this is the 2023 NEC. I don't see anything that would have a, more of a proximity thing to the tub or shower. And I believe it is in Canada. I believe Canadian rules have their own little thing about that. Now, interesting enough, we understand that everything gets bonded, box gets bonded. Most of the time, the switch is non-metallic, the plates are non-metallic, and you have the screws, the screws and all that type of stuff. Then you have to make sure that everything is properly bonded. Of course, they're going to screw into the device, right? And that device is going to be bonded to the box or through an equipment bonding jumper or connected to the equipment grounding conductors and all that kind of stuff. So it should not be an issue. So I am not aware of, and I could be wrong, but I'm not seeing anything right up front about the, being next to the shower, right? It's not in the shower. It's not in the footprint. Now, what's ironic with that is obviously you have an application when it comes to receptacles, and it's very specific about that, right? It talks about those type of bathtub and shower spaces, right? So for receptacles, and I know that wasn't the question, but 406.9, and I'm in the 2023, and you go down to C, it says bathtub and shower spaces. It says receptacles shall not be installed inside the tub or shower or within a zone measured 3 feet from the outside edge of the bathtub. So that's that zone, 3 foot, 8 foot, that zone. Not mounted in those zones, and it does not want a receptacle. Okay, so that's the general rule for that. Okay, there's a couple exceptions to that, but that's the general rule to that. I won't get into the exceptions. We'll just talk general rule because that's receptacles, and that wasn't the gist of the question that was asked. So we went to 404. I didn't see anything that prohibits you being right next to it, that type of thing. But just to be aware, that is a violation in Canada. I believe they do have a switch issue violation. There's my dog hollering. So he's being very vocal today. All right, so hopefully that answers that question. I'm not aware of anything that would do that. All right. So welcome back here to another question. And on this question, it's pretty straightforward. Somebody says, hey, Paul, I'm a master electrician in Texas, and I want to get into your CMECP program. What do I have to do, and what are the benefits of becoming a CMECP? Okay, great question. Not really code related, but I figured I'd answer this question for you. So a little bit of a backstory. I created the CMECP program and had all those acronyms trademarked and everything, and created this program back, I believe it's like 2016, 2017. And the whole concept of the CMECP program was to take your knowledge to the next level. You know, master electricians, they get their master license and that's it, right? They feel like that's it. They just stop. And I didn't like that. I wanted to help master electricians take their game to the next level. I wanted to help them keep continuing educating. And people say, well, Paul, isn't that just a money grab for you to create a certification program? And the answer to that is absolutely not. If you look at the price of it, I hardly charge you anything for it. And I have not charged renewal fees for any of our CMECPs since the inception of the program. I could be hitting them with the renewal every 2 years. I could be sending them invoices, and I don't. Because I believe that it's more important to develop the program and have people committed to the program and understand it and what it can do for you, whether it's for marketing, whether it's for self-esteem, whether it's for internal promotion, whether it's for whatever you choose to use it. And that's up to you to use it that way. The process is pretty simple. You apply for it, go to cmecp.org. You apply for it. You send in your application fee, which I believe is $150. That allows us to do the background check your licenses, verify that you're a master electrician. That covers all of your proctor's exams when it's time to do those. It covers all the grading of our course as you move through the program. And it also, once you do that, once you're cleared, then you'll order your CMECP program. And basically you get the program at cost, where everybody else is, typically paying a lot more, $500 and $600. You're getting it at cost. And you go through the program. You got 6 months to complete the online portion. Then after that, you have a proctored exam. Ask any of our CMECPs. It's very challenging. And once you pass that proctored exam, it's a recorded exam. And then you go on and you have to do an essay. Now, in the past, we had what's called a 5-on-1, where you had to get questions asked by 5 of the CMECPs that are all peers. But again, during COVID, it was hard to get everybody at the same time, and it's still a challenge. So we resulted to doing what's called an essay at the final stage. And what you do is you do an essay on any part of the code that you feel comfortable. That's at least a 500 to 1,000 word essay. And you explain or you teach an aspect of the NEC to us. And what it does is I don't grade that. What I do is I send that to our board, okay, their candidate review board, and they will give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. The percentage of people that make it to that final stage is very low, okay? And it's not because it's hard. Code is code. How many times have you heard me say that? Code is code. But if you're a master electrician and you want to enhance your skills, you always want to test your knowledge. And that's what the program does. It tests your knowledge. It makes sure that you understand the key fundamentals of calculations, the key fundamentals of the NEC. Maybe you're a leader in your company, the owner of the company, whatever it is. It tests your knowledge and makes it validated, because then you complete it, and you have to complete the course successfully, go through the course, pass every unit, pass every element exam. And once you pass that within 6 months, which again, people think that sounds easy, but we all have life that happens. And so a lot of times the students get caught up in time and they just run out of time. And we don't make exceptions for anybody. You run out of time, then what happens is you either have to start the process over again because we don't give you a second chance in that program. That's not what we do there. So the percentage of passing the program is very low because life just gets in the way. Family, business, kids, you run out of time. Very few people have ever failed out or flunked out of it. Very few. That's not the issue why people don't finish our CMECP program. It's usually the time factor. Now, once you pass the online part, the proctored exam, recorded exam, and the essay, it all happens pretty rapidly. So once you finish, you have to do the proctored recorded exam within 30 days of ending your program. And then you have up to 30 additional days to get your essay in. Okay, so really you have 8 months total to complete the entire process. But the online portion has to be done in 6 months. And it can be done. We have CMECPs that have done it. Jay Grunberg done it. Okay? If you really want to test your knowledge and really feel confident, if you're a code geek, and this is the thing for you, and you get to use the acronym, you get to use it in marketing, promotion, however you deem fit, you've earned it. And we record that and we make it available to anybody that wants to challenge your certification. That's part of the bylaws. We actually keep it recorded and we keep it on file so that we have all those proctored exams are recorded and kept on file. And so if anybody inquires about your certification, you get a certificate. If they inquire about it, we will let them know how you did. So again, people want to know, what does that give me? I know it's famous over on that Holt forum where they're like, well, I wouldn't do that. That's because they're so self-conscious anyway, but they don't want anybody to challenge them. They don't see the value in saying, look, I'm going to step outside of my comfort zone and just test my knowledge. You don't have to tell everybody if you don't want, but this is certainly not a money grab by me. We're a corporation. This is part of validation of your licensure. No difference than you go to get ICC certifications, no different than you might go to get an NFPA certification. Voluntary certifications being what they are, whether some entity accepts it or not, we can't control that. And we're not going to try to control that. So it is very much to enhance your marketing. What elevates you over the competition? Why would you put it on your business card to enhance over somebody else? There's many things that you do with that, right? And so the reasoning behind all that is that it can enhance you, right? So anyway, those are some of the things that are benefits for the CMECP program. If you're interested in it, go to cmecp.org and read all about it. If you want to get in the program, submit your application. But immediately, it's not going to do you any good to just submit your application. Okay, we have some people out there that are in the queue waiting, and we've let them know that you can submit your app, but nothing will be done until you pay the $150 to pay for the time it's going to invest in validating you before we move on to the next step. Okay, so there are costs involved with it, but the costs are so freaking low for the certification program and everything that's involved that it's not even funny. Nobody's getting rich on that, I promise you. And we don't want everybody. I can promise you, I do not want everybody in that program. I do not. So it's not right for everybody. And if it's not right for you, rather than bash it, you don't understand it, you're not in it, you don't know it, just shut up and move on. That's my advice on that. So hopefully that answers that question. For the CMECP program, we'd love to have you in it if you're a master. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that we have a journeyman program. It's the apprenticeship program, and it's the best of both worlds. Because really what it is it allows you to go in there as a journeyman electrician if you're studying to become a man. Most people don't know about this program. You can go in and get into the apprenticeship program, and you can get the same study course that you would get if you were a fast track student, right? And you get to go through the program. The only caveat is that by the end of 12 months, you have to be ready to take your you have to have already passed your master's. Because that's the whole point, right? So once you do that, let's say you get into our apprenticeship program under the CMECP program, and 8 months from now, you pass your master's exam because you're studying for the exam. Then you come to us and you show us that you passed it and you're now a master. Well, you automatically jump now to the last two stages, and that is the proctored, and you jump to the proctored, and you jump to the actual essay stage. Okay. So again, it's a little more forgiving And that's available for journeyman. If you're a master, then we're already going to impose that 6 months threshold for you. But if you're journeyman, you get a whole year. So that is another course of action where somebody can kill two birds with one stone. You can join as a journeyman, but your expectation is you have to be a master at the end of the year. And obviously that's what you're going for anyway, right? I mean, that's what your goal is. So you kill two birds with one stone. So that's a great program, the apprenticeship program. And not very many people use that. But if you have aspirations to get your master's and you're a journeyman, but you also see the benefit of the certification, then that's the way to go. And I probably don't do a good job of promoting that. And I don't do a good job at all at promoting the CMECP. I'm the acting executive director. At some point, we would like to get somebody that's the full director. We had plans for somebody to do that, but that really didn't fall through because they had other aspirations to do other things like become a TikTok star. So anyway, we've moved on from that, and we're still working on it. But that's a great program. Hopefully you can check it out. All right, so let's go on and end on a question here that was submitted through the portal. It says, "Hey, Paul, I'm currently in your Fast Tracks program, but I have a work-related question. We install a lot of residential standby generators and service-rated transfer switches. When updating the grounding, I always pound 2 ground rods and run a water bond if in-ground metal water pipe if it's available. My question is about the ground metal water pipe. I understand that if the water pipe coming into the house is metal, you should run a grounding electrode conductor to that metal pipe within 5 feet of where it enters the house. I'm confused because I recently had a local inspector tell me I need to run a grounding electrode conductor to a water pipe, but it comes into the dwelling in plastic and changes over to copper after it enters the basement. Do you still need to run a ground to the metal water piping in the dwelling, even if it comes into the house in plastic? If so, does it still need to be within 5 feet of entering the house? Or can you just bond the metal water piping closest to the panel? Hope this question makes sense. Okay, does make sense. And I believe I have talked to the submitter about this. Sorry for my dogs getting crazy here in the studio. My wife's not here to attend to them, so they're just going nuts. So it sounds like the inspector's a little confused. If your water pipe ground outside, if the water pipe is plastic, then you do not have a water pipe ground. Okay, so 250.52A1 is not in play. So the fact that the plastic pipe comes into the building and then changes over to, let's say, copper throughout the building, then what you're doing is you're not running a grounding electrode conductor to the copper water pipe. You're running a bonding conductor to the water pipe. And that's going to be in 251.04. It's not going to be something that invokes 250.66 for grounding electrode conductors and whatnot. Totally different thing. So since the metal water piping system is running through the house, you're required to bond that. So if you got your code books, or I'll give you references so that you can look at that. So in your code books, you want to go to 250 and you want to go to 104. Okay. Now 104, for those that have it, this is for bonding of pipe systems and exposed structural steel. The very first one in 250.104A is metal water piping. It says the metal water piping system. Okay. So that would be the system for the dwelling. If it was a metal water piping system, we used copper an example, but it could be galvanized steel or whatnot. If that's the metal water piping system, what it says under A1 is that the metal water piping system installed in or attached to a building or structure shall be bonded to any of the following. Number 1, you can go from that metal water piping system over to the service equipment enclosure. That's one thing you could do. You could go from that metal water piping system over to the grounded conductor at the service. So typically you can go to that grounded conductor terminal bus in the service. Okay. Number 3, You can go to the grounding electrode conductor if it's sufficiently sized, okay? So the reason we say that is because maybe the grounding electrode conductor goes to ground rods and it's only a 6, right? Because that's all that's required in 250.66a, right? So maybe it's a 6. But maybe the size of that bonding jumper needs to be bigger than a 6. So then you couldn't go to the grounding electrode conductor because it was only size 6. So that's why it says if it's of sufficient size. It may not be of sufficient size. So that's why it says that. And then the last one says you can take it from that metal water piping system over to one or more grounding electrodes that are used. If the grounding electrode conductor or the bonding jumpers, because you could have multiple electrodes connected together, to the grounding electrodes is of sufficient size. So they have to be sized properly. So if for some reason the sizing of the connections to these electrodes were based on 250.66, but the bonding jumpers that you're going to be doing are typically going to be a size in accordance with 250.102C1 and things like that. So as long as all those bonding jumpers to those electrodes and the bonding jumpers between electrodes are the right size, then I can go from that metal water piping system and run it straight over and connect it to those electrodes if I want, right? So that's what it says in 250.104A1. Now, where I think the inspector's getting confused is that he thinks that what you've got is an electrode, right? And so 250.52A1 is a metal underground water pipe. And that is the one that we're talking about that says, you know what, you have to have 10 feet or more in contact with the earth to qualify as an actual electrode, and that's what a grounding electrode conductor would connect to, okay? So I'm thinking that they probably just, he's confused. That's what I'm thinking it's taking place, right? I think that at some point there's some mixed confusion about those type of applications, and they're not really sure what's going on with that. That's my take on that. So hopefully you can get with your electrical inspector and say, hey, bro, we're not talking about a grounding electrode conductor. We're talking about a bonding jumper. Okay, so two different things, right? So that's what it sounds like you're talking about. Now, interesting with that, the plastic coming in, let's say it was not a concrete encased electrode, a water pipe ground outside, didn't qualify, wasn't 10 feet in contact with the earth because maybe it was wrapped in some kind of protective membrane, so it wasn't in direct contact with the earth. Then it's not an electrode. No different than if a concrete encased electrode is installed over top of a vapor barrier. It's not in contact with the earth, so it may be there, but it's not an electrode. If that's the case and it comes into the building and you have 5 feet or less, let's say, of metal piping, that doesn't constitute a metal piping system. That's just a small piece, okay? So there's a lot of confusion over that as well. So there's no way that I would make somebody bond a little 5-foot piece, because I would say that is not the water piping system. Now, if the entire system in your house and is made up of the water piping system is made up of metal, then that's a bonding aspect, and that's where 250.104 has to come into play. That you still got to have that conversation with your AHJ, because they're going to get confused about little pieces. And no, I don't ever invite anybody. Sorry, bro. People are going to learn. I don't mash up with people. Why would I do that? Anyway, so I can't control what comes out their mouth, so that's why I would never connect with anybody, especially on this platform that I don't know. So anybody ever requests to join me on a stream, it ain't happening. Except for if I know you. So anyway, why would I do that? I don't know people on here. So anyway, there you go. That's folks, for those that are listening in the podcast, I'm also streaming on TikTok, and so people are requesting to be invited to my live stream, and I don't do those things. Okay. All right, folks. Well, that's it. That's about 35 minutes or so of some Let's Ask Paul. I have a bunch more to do. Please, by all means, feel free to submit your questions to me at paulabernathy.com. I would love to answer your questions, be as detailed as you can. Make sure you let me know what code reference or what cycle you're working on so that we can be very accurate, because the codes have changed from 17 to 2020 to 2023. And, I even get questions on 2008. So for me to be accurate in your question, you need to make sure that you're accurate in how you write your question. Okay? With that old saying, crap in, crap out, don't blame me if I don't answer your question if you're not descriptive enough. Okay? That's on you. All right, folks, till next time, stay safe. God bless. And remember, get our free mobile app. It's free. You can communicate with us free on there, and you can get a lot of calculators. All you got to do is go to our website, fasttraxsystem.com, and that's Trax, T-R-A-X. So it's FASTTRAXSYSTEM.com, and go to the navigation. You'll see where it says mobile app. Get our app. It's free. Accept it for notifications. A lot of great tools on there for free, and we're always adding new stuff. All right? All right, folks, till next time, stay safe. God bless, and we will catch you on the next episode of Let's Ask Paul.